70 years after his tragic demise, the last secret of James Dean finally stepped into the light, rewriting the legend forever. His name alone feels like a whisper of rebellion, of leather jackets and quiet stares that held entire storms. For generations, James Dean has been frozen in time, a symbol of youth, tragedy, and Hollywood's brightest flame extinguished far too soon. But the truth behind his story is not just about fame or a car crash on a lonely California road. It's about a boy from Indiana, shaped by heartbreak, clawing his way into a world that both celebrated and destroyed him. And today, with new revelations surfacing, the myth begins to unravel, leaving behind something far more human and far more haunting. James Byron Dean entered the world on February 8, 1931, in the modest industrial city of Marion, Indiana. Life for the Dean family was simple, grounded in the hopes of stability that defined countless American households during the early 20th century. His father, Winton, had traded farm life for work as a dental technician, chasing the kind of upward mobility many families longed for during those uncertain years. This pursuit of better opportunities took the family from the quiet fields of Indiana to the sprawling possibilities of California, a move that unknowingly placed young James on a path toward destiny. Yet, behind this pursuit of promise, the Dean household carried an unshakable fragility. For James, childhood would forever be defined by one profound loss. His mother, Mildred, was not just his parent but his emotional anchor, his confidant, and the person who nurtured his creativity. When cancer claimed her life as James turned 9, the world collapsed. Her death left him shattered, adrift in grief that he would carry like a hidden scar for the rest of his short life. Friends and teachers saw the quiet boy who seemed average in school, neither excelling nor failing, but no one could see the storm beneath, a boy aching for meaning, longing to express a grief too heavy for words. That grief, unspoken and unresolved, would later fuel his performances, allowing him to tap into raw emotions that audiences could never look away from. After his mother's passing, James returned to Indiana, raised mostly by relatives while his father kept a distance. He attended Fairmont High School, where his quiet demeanor began to shift. Athletics became his outlet. Baseball and basketball kept him active, competitive, eager to belong. But it was drama class and public speaking that revealed something deeper. On stage, James seemed to find a strange kind of freedom, shedding the awkwardness of adolescence and channeling feelings he couldn't otherwise share. Classmates remember a boy who transformed under the lights, already hinting at the magnetism that would one day captivate millions. Graduating in 1949, James followed a path that seemed sensible on paper, enrolling in Santa Monica College to study pre-law. Perhaps it was an attempt to meet expectations, to create a life that felt secure and acceptable. But security had never been what James longed for. It didn't take long for him to abandon pre-law and pursue drama at UCLA, a choice that fractured his already strained relationship with his father. Acting was seen as frivolous, unstable, unbecoming of the life Winton had hoped for his son. Yet James, stubborn and restless, chose art over approval. In that decision lay the first glimpse of the defiance that would define him. At UCLA, James's natural talent began to shine. Out of hundreds auditioning, he was chosen to play Malcolm in Shakespeare's Macbeth, an early signal that he carried something rare. But academia could not contain him. In 1951, restless and impatient, he left college entirely, determined to immerse himself in the world he so desperately wanted to conquer. What followed were lean years, television commercials, tiny film roles, odd jobs to pay rent. His first on-screen appearance was in a Pepsi commercial, barely noticed at the time but now cherished as a glimpse of the legend before the storm. He found refuge in New York City, where he trained at the legendary Actors Studio under Lee Strasberg. There, method acting taught him to mine his own pain, to strip away pretense and perform with unsettling authenticity. It was a technique that suited him perfectly, because James had always been a man living in extremes. Joy and sorrow, love and loneliness, all clashing inside him. Slowly, opportunities began to build. Television anthologies gave him brief moments to showcase his intensity. Family Theater, Bigelow Theater, Hallmark Hall of Fame. Stage work followed, with daring plays like The Immoralist and The Metamorphosis, productions that mirrored his own fascination with flawed, complex souls. Even then, colleagues noted his quiet intensity, his unpredictable moods, the way he seemed both magnetic and unreachable. Fame was approaching, but James seemed caught between craving recognition and fearing what it might cost him. Everything changed in 1955. Cast in East of Eden, James brought to life Cal Trask, a character tormented by rejection and longing, a role eerily close to his own reality. Audiences were transfixed. Critics hailed his performance as raw, electric, unlike anything Hollywood had seen before. Suddenly, James Dean was no longer an unknown. He was a force. The same year, he starred in Rebel Without a Cause, the film that cemented him as the eternal face of teenage rebellion. His portrayal of Jim Stark, a boy yearning for understanding in a world that misunderstood him, became iconic. It wasn't just acting. It was confession. Every gaze, every silence, every outburst carried truth. Youth across America saw themselves in him, and James Dean became a cultural phenomenon overnight. Yet fame did not bring peace. Behind the cool image of the leather jacket and cigarette lay a man grappling with identity and isolation. In later years, close friend William Bast revealed that their bond sometimes crossed into intimacy, hinting at a fluidity in Dean's sexuality rarely spoken of in that era. Hollywood demanded perfection and projected its own myths, but James lived in contradictions. Romantic entanglements with women like Beverly Wills, Barbara Glenn, and Liz Sheridan coexisted with unspoken relationships that defied labels. His most famous romance, with Italian actress Angeli, was both passionate and doomed, a love story suffocated by family disapproval and relentless media scrutiny. It felt in many ways like an extension of James's life itself, intense, fleeting, and heartbreaking. Even as his star rose, his inner turbulence deepened. He was known for speeding down California highways, reckless behind the wheel of his Porsche 550 Spider, the car he famously nicknamed Little Bastard. To James, racing was liberation, a thrill that matched the chaos inside him. But friends worried. The car was notoriously difficult to handle, plagued by mechanical flaws, and James drove it with little regard for danger. Warnings were constant. He ignored them all. It was as though some part of him believed he was untouchable, or perhaps he didn't care. September 30, 1955, proved otherwise. Driving toward a race in Salinas, James collided with a Ford Tudor sedan driven by 23-year-old Donald Turnipseed. The crash was catastrophic. James died before reaching the hospital, just 24 years old. In an instant, Hollywood's brightest star was gone. Headlines screamed, fans mourned, and a legend was born. But beneath the tragedy, troubling questions lingered. Was it truly just bad luck? Or was there more to the story than anyone dared admit? For decades, the accepted narrative framed the crash as a simple accident, an unavoidable twist of fate on a lonely road. Yet recent investigations have complicated that picture. Dean's Porsche, it turns out, had known issues. Faulty brakes, problematic steering, a car infamous for instability at high speeds. Moreover, eyewitness accounts suggest visibility on the road that day was poor, signs unclear, and response times delayed. Even Turnipseed, long blamed for the collision, may have been more victim than culprit. Responsibility, it seems, was shared, a convergence of human error and environmental hazards rather than a single fateful mistake. Even darker are whispers of what happened after the crash. Reports suggest details were suppressed, evidence altered, truths buried to shield reputations. Hollywood's influence loomed large in 1950s America. Protecting a rising star's image, and the studios profiting from him, often outweighed transparency. In the wake of Dean's death, uncomfortable facts were conveniently obscured, transforming tragedy into mythology. The public was left with a sanitized version of events. The rebel without a cause, gone too soon, immortalized by fate rather than flawed decisions and hidden scars. Understanding these complexities does not tarnish James Dean's legacy. It deepens it. His rebellion was not mere performance but an expression of real pain. His charm was inseparable from his fragility. To view him only as a Hollywood icon is to miss the boy from Indiana, grieving his mother, searching for love, daring to live fast because life had already shown him how quickly it could vanish. That duality, the glamour and the grief, is why his image still haunts us, why generations who never knew him feel as though they did. In many ways, James Dean's story is less about his death and more about what he represented. The restless ache of youth, the desire to be understood, the beauty and danger of chasing dreams without compromise. Even now, decades later, his films feel alive, his gaze still electric, his voice still carrying the weight of everything unsaid. And with each new revelation about his life, his loves, his final drive, the legend evolves, reminding us that behind every icon lies a person, imperfect and unforgettable. If this story moved you, Take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are more untold stories waiting, more lives behind the headlines that deserve to be remembered in full. The triumphs, the heartbreak, and everything in between.